Hello again, welcome back to the Unloved JDM channel. So today we're answering one of the most common questions about turbo swapping one of these. And it's kind of a complicated question because the way that I've done it and the time it's taken to do it. So I'm going to fill you in as much detail as I can. But before we get into that, I must show you these. So this is our official 2023 calendar, which is on the website right now. You can buy these, we'll send them anywhere in the world. We've only got a limited quantity and they are selling, so it is like a time sensitive matter before they're all gone. So I just thought I'd show you these where they are now, and we'll put some more pictures up as well so you get to see a little bit more detail about this. But as I said, they're available now. They can be sent all over the world. That's not an issue at all. So wherever you're from, jump on the website, get yours while they're still there. Right, costs. So now the way that this came down was a little bit more complicated than if you were to go out tomorrow and try and, find all the pieces essentially to do it. I bought, first and foremost, a Subaru Forester, I think it was last year, for essentially its wiring loom, gearbox, sort of rear diff, prop shaft, drive shafts, because I've been told that they were all different. So I got everything from that I thought, I've got wiring loom. Pretty much the only thing I believed I was missing was the engine at that point, but this is where I'm going to try and educate the people that are going to do it by my failures. What actually happened was, when I came to do it, as I think you saw in the videos at the time, the wiring loom from the Forester wouldn't actually suit it, so we incurred more costs. But the Forester itself, with, as I say, the engine and the gearbox, the diff, the shafts, the whatever I thought I could use from it, that cost me 300 quid, give or to, well, £300, whatever that works out at. Wherever that landed after transport was maybe 350 or something like that. But as I said, the wiring loom got complicated fairly quickly because the wiring loom for the Forester was far too different for what suited the Impreza. So I found a guy not too far away from here who had a WRX wagon that he was breaking, and I bought the actual wiring loom that goes behind the dash and runs out into the engine bay and all that kind of stuff for £100. I gave him for that, and I had plenty more bits from him as well. I'm not sure, but I intended again to use the key and the steering column essentially and the ECU setup from the Forester. Again, I thought I had everything for the 300 quid, but it didn't work out like that. So I actually then had to buy these extra from this chap who had the WRX. Right, second part of the wiring loom, I've mentioned this in a video before, but I'll recap it while I'm here. After the sort of floor loom, which mounts next to the driver's seat and works backwards from there, there is a little loom with a module in the boot, as I showed you before. I then realised that I needed that, so I had to go back out and meet him. I bought that for another £50, so that's what that's cost me up to now. Additionally, as I said before, the radiator on it is different as well. I had to get a turbo radiator, and again the same guy, he was selling a aluminium radiator, so I bought that as an upgrade while I was there. So that was another 60 quid, but it was an alley one anyway, so it's a bonus no matter what. And then I had to buy the engine part itself got fairly complicated fairly quickly because me being me, and if you know the channel, you know what I'm like. I have several engine blocks in various states of repair, and the one that I actually had was from a late model classic. So I had an EJ205, fairly stripped down but complete with heads. So that, if you were to go out and buy one for an EJ205, would be ballpark of around £900, £800, £900, maybe £1,000, depending on where you buy it from, what its history is. So that didn't cost me that because I've had it sat here for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, but that's what it would cost, I think, if you were to go out and buy it. And whether that would be complete with this model year, I don't know, because again, 6-7 years ago, I stripped and scrapped, for whatever reason, a WRX, and I took out of that and I kept the inlet manifold, which has got TGVs on it on this model, which obviously the ECU looks for, unless you blank them. And it has a few varying sensors and things like that that are slightly different, varying water pipes. So again, I don't know if that would come with the engine price, but that's something just to take into account. Make sure you get the right model year for what you're building and what your ECU expects to see. And then the turbocharger itself I bought separately. I bought that second hand. That was about £100 for a TD04. It's not a big turbo yet. We haven't played with that side of things yet, but it's something to look at for next year because it's obviously Christmas now. And then there was top mount intercooler, which again I bought from the guy who had the wire and loom stuff. I think it was. I actually bought from him the WRX Speedo clocks, but you don't actually need them. So in the end, I actually swapped around and didn't bother fitting them. I kept the non-turbo clocks just to keep the mileage accurate. When I came to build it, I didn't actually use any of the drive shafts or the prop shaft seemed to be no different to what was already on this, even though it was non-turbo. For whatever reason, that was that. As I said, I didn't put the clocks in it because I want to keep the mileage accurate. So technically speaking, if I don't own a private test track yet, but if I did, I would probably be able to prove that it went off the 140 mark, which is on a non-turbo, because it seems to be really peppy, which that's another story. Fuel pumps and stuff like that, second-hand WRX fuel pumps, 30-40 quid, that's all it is. It's a drop-in item, the tanks are basically the same thing, so it's not an issue. Other than that, it hasn't actually been terribly complicated to do. It's just time-consuming. For me, I've got plans to do this again on other cars, as I said before, but this time it'll be a lot more fluid and a lot easier and a lot more achievable because I've been there before. I know what the headaches are, I know what the holdups are, and I hopefully know what the restraints are. Other than that, you can reuse things like your power steering pump, you can reuse things like your aircon pump, alternator, all that's basically the same thing. It's essentially the same unit that you're putting back in. Engine mounts usually come with a block with your new engine, so that's pretty straightforward. But other than that, what I would advise anybody to do, and I've already done this on this car, if you're driving something that's non-turbo like this, if you change things like the seats, it will feel better. So you put WRX seats in it, it feels immediately better. It feels like you've upped the handling massively because the non-turbo seats are absolutely terrible for sitting in as far as heavy driving goes, or spirited driving. Brakes have to be upgraded. The non-turbo brakes are not suitable for this kind of application. It's fine up until you're beyond national speed limit, 70, 80, 90 miles an hour. When you're up that sort of territory, you do need a 4-pot brake up front and ideally a 2-pot up back, but I haven't got to the backs yet, so that's another thing. Suspension, once again, non-turbo suspension is generally quite soft and quite tall, but again, this already had it done, so I would definitely be doing that. And other than that, as I say, if you can get like a complete ECU lock set, that makes it a lot easier. Get everything you can. You have no immobilizer issues. I didn't with this, and it will. I would like to say it'll start straight up, but if you saw the videos on it at the time, it took me a few days because of a few headaches and issues amongst me Frankensteining various bits together to get it going. Clutches. Clutches is a weird thing. Because I used a Forester box, it was kind of hard to get a clutch to match up because I used a classic engine. The differences on the engine are the crankshaft pulley, the inlet cam pulley on the, technically it's the right side as you stand in front of the engine and look at it because it's got the timing gear on. It's got the sensor on. So they're different. You can't use those off a classic. Those have to match whatever your application is, whatever your ECU is looking for. And once again, the flywheel is the thing that dictates the clutch, because it had a classic flywheel obviously on the engine that I put in it, but that wouldn't allow the clutch to work properly. So that was probably another sort of maybe £200 depending what kind of clutch you was to put in it, to get the clutch right and usable. And it handles power perfectly fine. It's just an XZ one that I've put in it now. So at this point in time, I'll put on the screen sort of a total of whatever it's cost. So I'm doing it in my head right now, and that is where it's at. So going forward for this car, it seems really peppy. So what we are going to actually put it on a dyno in the near future to sort of see where it's at and see what it should run at and make sure it's just healthy and everything before we start playing with it, because at some point we are going to start playing with it, get a little bit more power out of it and have a little bit more fun with it. But that's all new year content, so make sure you guys subscribe for that. Additionally, looking at it, it's not a very good looking car at the moment. Yes, obviously it's a Subaru, and if you love it like I do, but it needs bodywork and paintwork ultimately. because at the moment it's running just around as my winter 4x4, so it's not in good looking show mode, but we've got parts here for it waiting to go on it. So again, going into next year, once we've got a few other jobs out of the way, this will be starting to get built up a little bit more, and again painted in a different colour, which I haven't told anybody yet and I don't plan to. So if you want to see all that, make sure you are subscribed, because as I said, that's our plans going into the new year, plus a few other things that we haven't told you about yet. And obviously we've got the white Subaru to deal with as well, and there's the Lexus to deal with, and a few other things, but I don't want to talk about that right now. Right, in the meantime, as I said, this is Christmas Eve, so if you are watching this before Christmas or on Christmas, make sure you have a good Christmas. Merry Christmas to you all. Thank you for all the support that you've given us this year. It means the absolute world. Obviously, we're past the 1,000 subscriber mark, and to see that, for me, it's taken 2 years, but to see that get to that point is a major milestone, and I'm so grateful I can't even explain it. But next year is going to be huge as far as the channel goes, as far as the club goes, and as far as what we're doing goes, but I won't say anymore. Anyway, have a good Christmas, and if I don't get another video up for New Year, have a great New Year, and we will see you all in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. See you again.